So in this episode of Stuff I Like to Do, I'm going to get into some of the other things I do to kind of refine my ability to develop explosive power. And I think it's important because I've shown a lot of stuff probably over the last year or so, and people continue to ask me questions about specific things. And what I'm going to show is some of the things I do to help develop my control, my coordination, my neurology, things of that nature. Because the idea is this, and Grandmaster Karen used to say best, if you want to be able to do the thing you want to be able to do, you got to practice doing those things and those things related to it. So one of the things I'm always asked about, build on this over time, is some of the things I do to kind of develop explosive power. First of all, in order to develop explosive power, you got to have control over your body. And the first place you really need to start is you got to develop your balance, and I've talked about balance before. It is really the genesis of gaining control over your body and being able to transfer power. You can be a power lifter, you can be a bodybuilder, and those things are all, good and well and good. But in order to be able to develop the kind of power you need for fighting, you got to practice certain types of movements, and then you got to work at actually building up the kind of, fiber recruitment, explosiveness, et cetera, in the muscles. And that's more of a neurological thing than it actually is just sitting around lifting a bunch of weight. So one of the things I do is I like to roll the ball, and I've gone over this before in other videos with, a weighted ball, usually like a medicine ball. This one's like 6 pounds. But the other thing I do is, when I'm rolling the ball, I'm also concentrating on feeling all the way down into my feet the movement that I would need as I'm rotating or turning my body to strike with power. Remember, all human movement not only has a pattern to it, but has an arcing or kind of a circular rotation to it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reinforce that type of movement. The other thing I like to do is kind of use the ball in the same fashion that I would be, say, washing the body. So if I'm washing the body, and I'm doing these types of movements with my body, kind of exploring different positions my body can be in, I then do the same thing with the medicine ball, where I kind of almost wash the body with the medicine ball, positioning myself while feeling the weight of it, trying not to muscle it so much as using the whole body to move the ball around. In other words, my hands, I'm using just enough strength in the arms to control the ball while using the body as much as possible. Even getting a little lower, getting down in here, really feeling the body articulate itself, so that I start building the kind of strength in all these different positions, but also the control and coordination over my body, so that if I really need to dig it out and find that power all the way down to my feet, I can. Once I've done that a couple times, which is kind of a warm-up, I'll even do the same thing to help improve balance as well, using the balance board. And I'll get on the balance board and I'll basically do the same thing. But as I'm doing this, I'm concentrating on feeling where my body is relative to as I'm rolling the ball, and also trying to control my balance as much as possible, and even pushing my balance to the limit of where either I feel like I'm going to fall or I actually fall. And the reason for that is, number one, I want to know where that limit is as I'm doing this before I would feel like I'm going to lose control, to train myself to not go beyond that on a neurological level. But also, should I reach that point where I feel like I'm going to fall, to train myself on how to step off and get back and recover as quickly as possible. I just don't think it's realistic to think you're always going to have perfect balance if you're fighting. The surface you may be fighting on may have all kinds of stuff going on, and you got to be able to recover as quickly as possible. So these exercises, as I'm practicing them, all designed also to do something, and I'll talk about it in another video, that I think is a lost art within training in general, but in particular the martial arts, and that is training yourself to where you're at a point where you're uncomfortable. I think too many people want to train within their comfort zone because, let's face it, we all like doing things and are, enamored with doing things we're good at. The problem is the real growth isn't always in doing the thing that you're good at. It's pushing yourself to that point of being uncomfortable and then learning or teaching yourself how to figure out how to either perform something when you're uncomfortable or figure out what works for you and what doesn't. In the next video, I'm going to get into some other stuff, and I'm going to talk about also how I use weapons to kind of push my abilities on a neurological level so that when I need power in these different positions, my body knows how to position itself to do whatever it is I need to do.